Oh, yeah. Welcome in. We are live again. This is Mikey Wine, aka Gundemonium Works. Got something little set up a little different in the room today. I got the camera mounted to the wall, so no more shaking when I hit the bench here. Pretty good. Pretty happy with that. It's not a permanent solution, but for tonight anyway, I've mounted the camera to the. It's still on the tripod, but it's mounted on the wall versus being on the desk. So anytime I'm bumping stuff around, I used to shake the camera a lot. But now we've got that set, so it won't do that. I've also got, I did a little brief test video on, I think it was Sunday. I think it was Sunday, yeah. So I got this little exhaust fan over here, a dust collector to collect any of the resin dust that I've been accumulating a ton of it as I've been cleaning up all these parts. That is right over here. You can see it right there. A little shield around it. Kind of helps vent everything. Or I can take the shield off, but as it is now, it kind of helps direct that air through the filter. And but yeah, I clogged that sucker up pretty quick doing most of these parts. I still have some cleanup to do on some of the barrels here, the machine gun parts for the torso, and probably end up cutting all the fins off. I'm not even sure I'm going to use the missiles, the big ones, in the this hard point setup here. I may just have the doors closed, but we'll see. I'm struggling with these a little bit, and here's why. These doors, when he made them, I mean, this kit's been sort of a mess with little defects and stuff. I mean, not bad considering all the parts that were with it. There were some really bad blemishes, but I'm able to fix that stuff. This is something going to take some rework because the doors here are too big for where they're supposed to go. So if I have them in the open position, I'd still have the same problem. The problem is when you try to put them together to fit in the little notches, they're so tightly together they push each other away, so you don't fit quite right. So I'm going to have to rework that. You can either put them in the open position like this or closed. I was thinking about having them closed since this is probably going to be in some kind of a bay. But you see what happens when I try to put them all in. It pushes the other side out because they're just the way the doors line up. The little hinges don't line up with the body of the unit and where the tabs are that they're supposed to line up. So I may have to shave a little bit off of each one of these doors. Hey, what's up, George? How you doing, buddy? I may have to shave a little bit off the sides of the doors to get those to fit properly. I've got the lower waist section completely assembled, glued together. For the most part, cleaned up. I've got a little bit of a seam here from where he manufactured these two parts. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill that with some glue. I'm going to sand that down and fix that. The torso is mostly together. I still haven't glued in these missile pods yet because I got to make sure they're lined up with the shoulder pins when I put those together. And plus the cockpit is not going to be closed. I'm going to have that in an open position. But for the time being, I've just kind of got everything together just to kind of keep track of what I've got to do still. I got to fix the these are the doors or the hatches for these the missiles here. And there's some pretty big blemishes here. There's actually a hole going all the way through because of the way it was designed. The inside, there's actually a hole in each one of these that went all the way through. So those have been filled with glue. I still haven't taken off the excess resin. But the nice part about this little vent setup is it's not loud enough. The test I did on Sunday, I wanted to see how loud, because in person this is kind of noisy, but I found out that on broadcast it doesn't really pick up the noise from this. In fact, it sounds more like just running water in the background, and it's really subtle and it doesn't interfere with my audio. So I'm super happy with it, and also it's a lot healthier here. I'm collecting all the dust. I've got a little bit more work to do on the thigh portions here. There's some little raised mold lines that I didn't see until just now. So I've got to do some sanding there. I sanded these down and glued on the ammo boxes on the side of the thigh on both sides. This, let's see, was it this one? Yeah, this one had some really serious bubbles in it in the top. So I filled those with, I actually used resin dust that I had accumulated and some CA glue and kind of made a compound with it and filled those and sanded that. So you can kind of see those holes there. They look like there's some blemishes there still, but that's just what's left of the dust that I've sanded off. And I got to do the front here, but for the most part, these are pretty much done. There was also another really big one on one of the heel sections here. Let me pull this out. This has also been filled, sanded nice and smooth. So I won't see if these are completely done until I prime them for the first time, hit them with some primer and see if I've got to do any other repair work on them. As for all of the missiles, I'm going to cut the fins off and actually have them installed in here. So it requires you to actually take the whole rear section of these off, and then they'll slide. They should slide right in the holes. They're there. So that's what I will do with all of these. And if I get to them, I'll start cutting these off of the sprues tonight. And like I said, I probably won't use these. I think I'm going to have these with the doors closed. I don't know. I don't know yet. I've got the back section I still need to glue on. I don't think I've glued on. I'm going to take these off for a second. So all those are supposed to fit in here. If you notice those squares, they're not exactly square. They're more like rectangular. So these have to trim off all the fins, including this hard point here. If you can see that, there's like a hard point glued to the side of it, or not glued, but attached. I've got to completely remove all that, cut the fins off, and then these are supposed to theoretically fit in there. So I can't even push them in there without cutting the fins off. I still have this is the back door. I could have this open, so I haven't decided yet. I may leave this open with the missiles installed and then have all the doors open in the front. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. The hard point is glued on to the base of this. So basically the way these two things go on here, there's a nice negative pin or negative post here that fits inside of this. So this will pop on to this side. Oops, I just lost the rear door. No worries there. And then the other one goes on here. So let me flip this around. So this is the way those will look, just like so. And that's pretty much it for the whole torso. You can see those white plastic strips that I used to assist in me filling those gaps. There were some gaps there that were just not going to go away with glue. So I had to add some strip there, which when it's painted, you really won't even notice it. It'll just be more like an added detail. And then I've got to prime this, especially because there was a lot of seams. All these little raised details on here were all, you can see where his seams were, and some of them were not fixed when he sanded it. So I had to redo it, glue add some glue and fill all those gaps. I'm also filling every gap around this back half that was actually glued on here. So hopefully all those seams I don't feel them with my nail, so I think they're good. But again, I won't know until I get my primer. I've ordered some, I was going to use this, which is Mr. Resin Primer Surfacer. But I don't have enough of it. And I forgot to check to see how much I had. I think I actually sold one to a friend of mine who was doing some resin. I think, I won't need this for a while. And, well, as it turns out, I needed it. But through talking with some friends, they told me about Gaia, the Evo Surfacer. It's supposed to be really good with resin, so I went ahead and ordered some black and some gray of that, and that's probably that's exactly what I'll end up using when that stuff gets here. So got to figure out the door issue here with these, whether or not I want to keep them open or closed. This is the back piece. It kind of has a hinge cut into it, so those go there. That's all ready to go. I can glue this on it really any time. Because either way, actually, I don't know. I might have it open or closed. I haven't figured that out yet. So mainly what I'm going to work on is just I've got some more touch-up work to do on a few of these pieces. But for the most part, I've been able to assemble most everything. These are not put together permanently yet. I've only installed these pins in the elbow here, just halfway, so I still have the ability to remove them. Because of what I'll most likely have to do is paint everything first and then assemble these parts. I've also got these pins in the shoulder that I have to glue in place to give me some tension here, because right now they're just turning in the shoulder. But I want to glue, either I'm going to glue the pin to the outsides here on the shoulder, or so that will allow this to be tighter. Pretty sure, actually, it's still moving in the shoulder. It's still not holding. So I might have to use some CA glue to kind of tighten up that joint. And the way you do that is just by adding a layer of it to make the fit a bit tighter. And that way it'll hold. This side is actually pretty good. Whereas the arm, you can see the arm is tighter where it holds its position. It doesn't fall back down. So I was actually pretty good with this one. I got it as tight as I wanted it. So, but yeah, I'll glue these pins in place at one point and everything will be ready for primer. And hopefully I'll get that stuff. They've already shipped it, so it should be here in about a few days to a week, I think. So the feet are ready to go. Those are done for first wave of primer. There's a little bit of some seam stuff I got to do with the waist section and the torso. Just a few things. I'm moving right along. It's going pretty steadily because ultimately there's a lot of parts to it. It's all mostly solid chunks of resin, so it's going to bed quite quickly. So I'm going to turn my fan on and start sanding a little bit here. And I've already cleaned the filter out. I took it to work with me and blew it out, and I just put it on the low setting. You may hear it a little bit in the background, but again, it's not very hard, very loud. It's just going to sound like a little bit of running water, maybe, or something like that. It's a little bit louder for me because I'm here in person with it. But so far so good. So you tell me, George. You tell me if you can hear it. You probably can, but again, like I said, my studio mic is pretty good about filtering out that background noise. It's not that bad. All right. What's nice is that because I have this glass, it's like a plexiglass little hinge thing. In fact, I can take it off and show everybody here. So this is just a 3-piece hinged piece of plexiglass with a couple little slots in it, and there's some two little hooks on the front of the unit. It just hooks on there, stays right in place. That way I can sand right in front of it, blow it off, and it goes right into the filter. Don't even really get affected by it at all. And I have noticed a lot less dust. I mean, I'm still getting some around my desk. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, but a lot less than what I was probably breathing before. And because I got the camera mounted to the wall, I don't got any shaking going on when I'm doing all this sanding. So that's also a plus. I'm just taking up. I can see where he manufactured these two pieces together. There's a little bit of a seam line there. But yeah, I just filled it with some glue. And that's all it took, really, just to clean that up. And so this is done. I really like the way this piece looks. This is the front. These were already molded into it. Had to glue these side vents on, the tail vents, and the butt plate here. It goes on the back once everything was. It fit pretty good. I had to trim a little bit off of these sections here just on the inside because the torso was not quite seating down around this ring. So I just took off a hair of material on each side of those vents, and then this pops on there nicely. And I can mount this in any position if I want to. If I really want to glue it, I can glue it in the straight, or I can have it slightly turned. But again, I think my idea is to have this kind of in a working maintenance bay ready for deployment. So everything should be in a straight ahead kind of stance because, and what I'm going to do too is I'm going to order another one of those Macross pallets I got from Shapeways. those generic pilots, because I think they would look good with this. Instead of using the cockpit pilot, having him sitting in the seat, I think I'll have the seat empty and have a guy standing outside of the destroid, walking up to it, getting ready to hop on board. So in the meantime, I'm going to do some work. I'm not sure I'm going to work on the doors for this big shoulder missile pod. I may do that later. I do want to try to get these. This is the last piece that I really have a lot of material to remove. Is on these doors that cover up all of the missile pods. Let's see, these go in like this. I can have them closed if I wanted to, but I think I want to have them in the open position like this, so that you can see everything. And I've got a good idea for some decals. Some of the mecha decals that I bought in the past. There are some tiny. Let me see here. Some little circular ones that say danger. They're really tiny, but because they're made by Cartograph, if you magnify them, you can actually read them. They're so legible. So I think they'll fit on the tips of these. Once I sand these down, a nice flat surface, I can have a nice decal on the front of each one of these missiles. I think that's going to look pretty cool. All right, let's get started. Anybody else want to hang out, say something, talk to me, put it in the chat, ask questions, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to cut off most of this stuff. There are some panel lines on the front of this. I don't know if it's easy to see or not. You can see the little squares. There's two of them, one on each side right there. I'm probably going to end up sanding most of that away. They're not very deep, so I can see the lines. They travel around the corner here. So when I get done sanding the front of this, if I have to rescribe those, I'll go ahead and do that too. Which I'm probably going to have to do, just because they're really shallow panel lines, not very deep. I'm just taking off the majority of this with my clippers because it's a big enough chunk, and then I've really grown to love these new scribers from USA Gun Store. Those the 3.5 and the 4. They're super sharp, and they've been working really great at removing this excess material. Gosh, a big chunk just kind of blew out. This is how these blemishes have been on some of these parts. A couple of people online have chimed in about Moscato's work lately, and though he makes some really great stuff, his molds have been questionable a little bit. I'm still interested to see how the gouge comes out. I went ahead and ordered that. That's going to be about 5 to 6 weeks out. But I'm really interested in that. If it turns out it's anything like this one, and it's pretty rough in some areas, that may be the last of the Moscato models that I purchased. Just because the cost alone, you should expect more. Maybe I'm expecting too much. I don't know. But they're so very expensive that you should expect to get top quality from that kind of purchase price. So how's it been going, George? I haven't been able to watch the entirety of your streams in the morning lately. Today I had a doctor's appointment in the morning before work. So I'm trying to get my thumb fixed. In the left hand here I have a trigger thumb. And so I actually got a cortisone injection right in here. That was not pleasant. And I'm hoping to avoid surgery. I'm hoping that will ultimately eventually fix what get to the point where the inflammation will go down and I won't need to have that relief surgery done. Although they did describe it to me, and it's not too terribly complicated. It's just really making a small incision and relieving that tendon that's hung up And they do it while you're awake because they want you to move your thumb and make sure they don't have any more restricted movement when they're done doing their surgery. So you got to do that while you're awake. Yay. Ouch. Yeah. Yeah. Not pleasant. But, the profession I'm in, I've been doing for 30 years. And it's definitely taken its toll. Not just my hands, but my back, and other joints, extremity, my elbows, lots of things. So I got a little bit of hot glue because I covered it. I filled this hole. I actually filled these this morning while I was waiting to go to my doctor appointment. So I'm going to take off a little bit of that extra CA glue, sand these smooth. I've also got what looks like some little micro bubbles here on the corner. So I think when I get done sanding this, I may end up having some little tiny holes to fill there too. I'm going to find that out once I get to sanding this. I'm just taking off a little bit of that extra glue so it makes it a little bit easier to sand. So George, now that I've got this fan running, how's it sound to you? I know I had a couple friends hear it earlier when I tested it. They said it sounds, very unobtrusive at all. I'm just curious how it is on your end. Yeah, almost got it. I have to remind myself that I have this the camera mounted on the wall because I'm always worried about shaking the camera, but now that I'm mounted on the wall, I don't have to worry about that so much. Yeah, these panel lines are almost disappearing on me. It looks like there might be just enough left. I can scribe them. Again, I got a little bit of seam there. There's some mold lines that are still surfacing here. But I got a little bit when I was pulling that material off. Some of it kind of blew out on me. Left a little bit of a nick in the surface of this, so I'm going to go back through that and fill that with some glue. Maybe get it with some accelerator, and then when I'm busy doing the other side, I can let that dry and come back to it. So far, so good. Just keeping my beveled edges looking good. Doesn't look like, there's a little bit on the side too. Yeah, there's some little tiny holes here. Little imperfections. Yeah, it's all right. We'll get it fixed. It'll take some time, but we'll get her done. I hope that, in fact, I'm confident. I don't think I have to worry about it, but I've been really happy with any of the Gaia products that I've used, primarily the flat coats. I'm really happy with those. So if my friends are correct in saying that the surfacers work really well with resin, I'm good to go, because I'm having a difficult time finding the Mr. Resin primer anymore. I'm not sure if it's out of production or if they're calling it something else, but I haven't been able to really find it. I used to use the IPMS events up here. We had every year in April. There was usually one vendor that always had a bunch of primers and surfacers and all sorts of stuff, tape, all those supplies that you really can't go without. So I used to love seeing them every year. Question, how many bubbles or holes are you running into? Okay. Let me put this on screen. Let's see. I'm going to lump everything together. I'm going to talk about gaps, unnecessary gaps and holes and stuff like that. So Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. There's a bunch of holes I had to re-drill on these. On one of these sides was full of them. There was some of these holes for the missiles were actually full of resin. They were not holes all the way through, so I had to actually drill them out. I would say at least a dozen or more, and not just small stuff, big holes. Like one of the thigh portions here. This one was a few massive holes. You can actually see the fill. There was actually 3 spots just on the top of this one alone. Again, nothing that can't be fixed, but just, I mean, the one on this heel, this whole entire corner was gone. When I cut off all the slag or whatever, or the flash that was left from the air bubble, it was basically that giant hole. You can actually see the outline of it. It was this big oval. It was all had to be filled. And I ended up filling it with CA glue, but some of the guys were telling me I could use some epoxy putty, two-part epoxy putty, and I actually have some really good stuff, and I forgot about using that. But I did. I could have had I not fixed it the way I did. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm just going to put a small little dab here on this little hole that just came up as soon as I was trying to trim away some of that extra. I got a little tiny, not much. That should do it, just a little tiny bit. I'm strictly using the new bottle now. I went away from the old one. That one was just getting way too hard to use. It was getting to the point where I couldn't even squeeze it out of the bottle anymore. It was just so thick and ridiculous. It wouldn't even dry really well. It was just probably a dozen. I'm not missing count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, there's at least 15 to 20 if I've already counted up to 12 and I haven't really scrutinized most of the parts. I know you're going to get some bubbles. It's inherent in the process of resin casting, but just the size of them alone, and some of the mold lines too, where you could see where the mold was separated and it left a long, like right here on the front of it. So let's see if it'll get it to focus. It's kind of hard to see, but on this side, you can see this line running down the front of this, and it goes from here all the way down to here. I don't know if you can see that. It's focusing a little bit. You can see the darkness of that line. That's a giant mold line. Repair stuff, but you're right. Given the cost of the kit, that's the feeling I've been getting with most. Is that, and these are some people that even know Moscato, and they're impressed with his work too. And not to say it. Don't get me wrong. I still really love this kit, but it did seem like could have been better considering the cost. Yes, there's a massive little divot here, the mold line. So I've got to not only trim down the excess resin that I have to sand off, but I've also got to trim off or sand down that mold line as well. So far, the fit has been pretty good. I can say that, with the exception of these doors on the front of the shoulder pod here. See if I can get my stuff to refocus. Come on. Notice my camera's not focused down here. It's focused up here. Come on down. There we go. With the exception of this guy, I think most of the fit has been pretty good. The cockpit, a little bit of adjustment I had to make with that. These are the carriers for all of those barrels that stick forward. The different size machine gun barrels or cannon barrels that come out each side. If you look in the back, where these, like this side, I had to sand down quite a bit just to get it to fit right inside here. This one, you can almost see a gap in the back because there was virtually barely enough resin to fill up that whole mold. So when I sanded off the back of it, there's actually an air bubble that I can see right now in the back of this because it was literally right to that. So there wasn't enough excess there for me to sand it completely smooth. So just some little stuff like that. But again, it's stuff that I can fix, and if you definitely want to know what you're doing, or at least be skilled enough to take on this kind of a project. It's definitely not a Bandai kit that will just go together by shaking the box. So this one's got a little bit, it's got another hole here, just like the other one in the front. There's a little bit more of a mold line here in a couple of sections. So I've got to sand it from here forward, and this top piece, and then from here forward is that mold line. Not too terribly deep, but enough that you got to get it even. So when I have to take off, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of shaving off this excess. This must have been where he poured it in because that's where the leftover resin was. So then I got to go back and rescribe these panel lines that I'm sanding away here. I'm using a 100 grit. This is a pretty aggressive sanding stick. It's a 100 grit sanding stick that I bought from Hobbytown. Bought them in a set. And then I've got a 180 that I'm kind of finishing it off with. If I got to go a little bit higher grit than that, I can do that as well. That's a little bit more to take off, but getting most of it off. This is just, I'm using the 100 because it's just quicker. I don't take all of it off. I always end up finishing with the 180 or higher. So yeah, this thumb has just been a pain in my ass. It's been getting worse. I noticed it quite a few months ago, where it seemed like in the morning it was just real stiff and I couldn't. It took me a while to get it moving. Now it just locks up, and I can, if I don't sleep with it in a brace that kind of holds it extended, I'll wake up and I can't even move it. It's pretty bad. So I went in today and had him look at it, and I gave him a shot. Now that I've sanded it a little bit, you can see that mold line, how raised up it is. So I've got to even all this out. By doing so, I'm probably going to eliminate that entire panel line. So it's going to have to be redone. I had to sand down the filling, the spot I filled that hole anyway. But I'm kind of killing two birds here because I got to sand down the hole as well as get rid of that mold line. There we go. Yeah, pretty much got rid of that entire panel line on one side. Just going to take off this corner a little bit. I'm just using my fingernail to test to see if I've got rid of all the imperfections in the mold lines. That's pretty good. And the true test will be too when I get down to, once I hit these with primer for the first time. Then we'll see for sure. But probably have to do some additional repairs, I'm sure. Something I can't see until we hit it with primer. Right now I'm just evening out the beveled edges on the corners because I've sanded some of that down. So I'm just going back over these corners. There we go. Looks good. Got a faint outline of that panel line here, so I wonder if I got some guides that work with this. Guides will be much easier. Let me see if I can find my guides. My panel line guides. Let's see. Where do I put them? Right here somewhere. Give me a second. Oh, there they are. Oh, there they are. The purple ones. Whoops, nope, that's not what I want. Here we go. All right. So these are from Craig. These are scribing guides. I'm just going to dump them out on the table here. So we've got some beveled ones and straight lines. These are good for, you can hold them on a piece and scribe a line. So once you get the right size, you don't have to use tape necessarily. If you just hold these, you're good enough to hold these in place and scribe right on them. So this 3mm actually work. Maybe. Let's see. We'll keep that one aside. 4.5. No, let's go 6. Let's see if I've got a 6. Where's my 6? Oh, I need a straight 6. Here it is. Let's check that one. No, that one's not it. Oops, wrong one. It's a 6.5. Let's check the 6.5. Too much. Gotta be a 6. I know I have a 6 in here somewhere. As soon as I can find it. Oh, that's a 45. Where is the 6? There's a 6. Or is that a 9? That's a 6. Perfect. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold this guide here right up against the edge of this, and then I can scribe that line again. First off, though, I think I'm going to want to do the side ones first, just so I have a guide I can see where my starting and stopping points are for the other lines. Let's put on the big mags here. Four times magnification so I can see what the hell I'm doing. There's some additional sanding I'm going to need too. I can see some scratches here still, but I want to get these panel lines in. If I go deep enough, I won't have to to worry about sanding it again. I'll be able to. I mean, to be quite honest, I probably could get away with just doing what I'm doing now with the blade. It's just kind of running a straight line and marking these, because they're really very narrow lines. They're not very deep and they're not very wide as far as the panel line goes. One thing I can't see is this one. This side, I can barely see it. So if I just run my razor out, just kind of marking those starting and stopping points. And I can see where my scriber's going on. Yeah, it's pretty good. A little bit of a challenge, but can do it. Okay, I'm going to need something pretty thin, so we're going to go with a 0.15 or a 0.2. Let's see, 0.2. That's a little too wide. I'm going to go 1.5, maybe even 1.25. It's a pretty narrow panel line. Yeah, this is 1.5. Let me look at 1.25. Let's start with 1.25. You can always go a little bit wider if I need to. Yeah, that's probably good work. All right. So where was that 3? This was the 3. Oops, I think I remember right. This one worked out good for this line here. Actually, I might need to go slightly smaller. 2.5. So hold this flat. These do take a little bit of practice. I mean, you gotta hold them still. Once you get it in the right spot, you can go over. Side here. This is quite a bit quicker than tape, because you got taping, you got to cut and kind of hold it, get it in the right spot, cut it. Now that my line is there, I can kind of be careful, but I can still kind of freehand it now that I've got a groove. I'm going to also be careful because this resin is pretty thin at this point. That's how the air bubble came through. So all I really want to do is just really, I want to go too deep. I just want to make sure my line is good. Yeah, that looks really nice. A little bit more. All right. On this side. Okay. All right. So that is first. Now I've got a 1 millimeter here that I can hold. I'll just flip it over. Hold it straight down. As with any panel line, if you do make a mistake, you can always fill it and do it again, especially if you're scribing your own. Just really not applying a bunch of pressure, just enough. I'll make 20 passes if I need to. I don't need to do this in a hurry, you know. It's all about just being careful. Don't need to get aggressive with it. Just take your time, because the end result will pay off. If you get too impatient, your line can jump, or then you end up having to fill something because it jumped out of your track. You also have to be careful with this stuff because it's so soft. Okay, now that I've got my lines going side to side, you can see those focuses here. There we go. Now I've just got to do the two that go up and down. Remember, that was my 6mm, which is this one right here. And this should go right along the side here. Oh boy, still hard to see. The starting and stopping point. You kind of just barely see it. So I'm going to go real careful right to there. A little tiny bit to fill. Such a thin line. Sometimes it's easy to get some of that resin still gets caught in there. So I got to do the other side. Just see, just basically like a little dot, just where the beginning and the end. There. Okay. All right. Now I can go back over this. Now we can see. Focus the right angle. There we go. You can kind of see those faint lines there. That's right where my new scribes are. So when I do this, you'll be able to see them a little bit clearer when they're filled with resin dust. So there we go. You might have to take these, because they're so thin, I might have to take the scriber back here just to clear that dust out. I think I like the 0.125. The 0.2 probably just a little too big. Again, once I hit these with primer, if need be, if I see any blemishes, I can go back through and repair those lines if I can't quite see that it's perfect without priming it. I may have to. All right, so that's one. I got this side I got to fix because I put a little bit of glue on top here, so I got to sand this back down. Yeah, those are fully cured. I didn't hit it with some of that accelerator, so it kind of didn't fully cure. I'm going to have to go back and fill it. I can do that after I scribe my lines. So, all right. So let's see. 3.5. One for this side, I think. Or was it 3? Maybe it was 3. There, 3. 3 mil. Take the 1.5 and put it back. I can read it. Okay. So go back over this one. I'll go ahead and use the 1 on the other side just to hold it in place and rescribe those 2 on the ball. This is a little bit harder because there's nothing to really. You have to just hold it in place and be careful. Otherwise, I mean, I could use some tape, I suppose. But, so this is quite a bit quicker if you can hold the guide in place without it moving on you. And just get your line started. Okay. More on this side. Cool. Perfect. Now, 6mm for the sides. am I doing on hump day this week? So far, so good, I hope. All right, one more on this other side, and we're good to go. Problem is, on this side, one of those it actually ends in that right where that hole is, or wherever that hole that I filled. So I gotta be real careful. Okay. I almost feel like you felt like George trying to describe that really soft plastic. Because it's kind of like what this stuff is. It just it's not that easy to describe. You have to go real slow. If you try going too deep, it just turns into an ugly line. Or it blows out too much of the material on the sides. What's up, Julius? How you doing, George? I mean, how's George? You saying how you doing, George and Mike? Good to see you. All right, so here's the other one. Actually, I'll sand it and you'll see what I'm talking about here. The white sand lights up those pen lines. Here we go. So success there. I do have a little bit of that hole to fill back on the top because I didn't use that accelerator, so it didn't fully cure. I went to sand it. It just kind of peeled off the middle. So I'm going to just put a little dab back on here and then I'll hit it with some of that accelerator. There we go. And then I can sand that again. Okay. It's the set. Cheers, everybody. All right. Where is my cap? There it is. Tim Harkins would slap me right now for not having my chisel discipline, as he calls it, by making sure you always put your caps back on when you're done using them. So I think I'm done with scribing guides for now. So I'm going to put these back in the bag so they don't get lost or damaged. If you guys know Hi Craig, or his name is Craig on Instagram, or Hi Craig on Instagram, he sells these on his page. I think he's the same name on Facebook. Scribing guides. There's really, really nice ones. I mean, a lot of them they're all straight, but then there's also a set of ones with nice little 45-degree angles on it. They're all different sizes. This one's a 4, meaning that the first measurement from flat up here is 4 millimeters before the groove. So it goes all the way up to 8 millimeter, I think. And from either straight or 45, but it's really nice for adding additional panel lines or, oops, I just dropped one. Or I just dropped 2. And I dropped them all. It's really nice for either cleaning up panel lines or, shit, that went way under the desk, or adding new ones to your project. without the use of Dymo tape or anything else like that. Yeah, you're right. He does make really nice scribing tools. I have the vent tool as well. What else do I have? I think I've got 2 or 3 of it. At least 2 of his tools. But I've used these quite a bit, especially for like little things like what I just did, just cleaning up panel lines and stuff like that. Especially if you already have one there and you can find the right size, and it's just a matter of holding it in place and doing a quick scribe, you're good to go. So I'm going to let this glue set up, and then I will go back and sand off that again. I'm just going to run this through and get some of that sanded material out of this panel line here. Looks like I may have a scratch. I may have gone a little too far on one side, so I might need to take some more of this off. Hey, dude, it's Big John. Have not seen you in a while. Good to see your happy face. How you doing, buddy? So, I am just cleaning up some rescribing some lines that I had to sand off during cleanup process. So, just going back over these 2 parts here. And what you might hear in the background is my little exhaust fan that's sucking all this dust in, so I don't have to worry about breathing all that shit in. Yeah, it works. I store my high crane jigs. Oops, let's see what it says. No prescription bottle? Yeah, that works too. I should do the same. I've got plenty of those laying around, little prescription bottles. My wife's always going, "Do you need one of these?" And I end up throwing most of them away, but it's a great idea. In fact, instead of keeping them in a plastic bag like this, I'll probably do the same. Put one for the straights and one for the 45s, you know. Doing good. How about you? We're all doing good, except for I just had a cortisone shot in this thumb today. That was very pleasant. If you've ever had one before, which I have not up until this point, that was not fun. But we're trying to get rid of this trigger thumb that I have, and it's starting to get worse and affect my work. And as many of you know, what I do for a living, turning wrenches, it's not easy, especially if you have an injured hand. Well, that's all we use them all day long. 30 years in the business will do that to you. How's that hobby room coming, John? You all done? And if you are, am I going to see pictures of it anytime soon? So what I'm doing now, I'm not scribing these. I'm just removing. I'm using my scribing chisel to just remove all that excess dust that's in those panel lines, because it's such a thin line. It's a 0.125, so not even my little old toothbrush will get the dust out. So I'm just running the blade down each one of these panel lines to pull the material out. And hopefully not cause my chisel to jump and create a scratch that I have to clean up again. There we go. Okay, I'm good with that. All right, this one should be cured now, since I used the Instacure on it. Julius and John, you may also notice that my camera is not shaking all around as I'm working tonight, because I actually tried something different. I actually mounted the camera to the wall, which is not a permanent fix. It won't work all the time, especially if I've got runners hanging on the wall. But by putting the tripod up there, I can do all this sanding and bump the table and everything else, and I don't have. Yep, there's a bunch of bubbles. I don't have any shaking going on as far as my camera. I mean, if I'm just building and painting, that's one thing. I'm doing so much sanding lately. George, you might remember I was talking earlier about these little micro bubbles. Well, let me show you what just came up, because now that I have sanded these down, quite a few of these bubbles surfaced. I could see them originally. It looked like they were just under the surface. So yeah, I'm going to have to fill all of these. Let's see if you can see it. There we go. See the focus right here along this edge? A bunch of little bubbles. You see them? For the most part, yes. Just got to figure out where to out a few things. Or put a few things. Is that what you mean by it? So I'm going to take some CA glue and I got to fill these. First, I'm going to rescribe the lines on the side. I probably should have kept out the scribing guides because I got to do. I forgot those panel lines wrapped around the edge, so there's actually a bit on the sides that I have to do. So we just rescribe these little short lines. I got to grab another scribing guide and do another straight line here. Got to clean the bench up, have been building. Oh, Halloween stuff. Yeah, I know. I saw that. I thought it was an old video or something because I thought there's no way he could be setting up Halloween stuff already. Yep, I was wrong. Okay, let me get my guides back out here. I'll do the same for this one. Fortunately, there's no bubbles, no of those little micro bubbles on this one. Although there is a pretty bad scribing line. I can actually see a scribing mistake that he made in the model. Yeah, it's got a pretty bad scribing error that I've got to clean up myself. Both sides on this one. This one's not so bad. Actually, no, there's a few scribe. Yeah, the inks are actually identical then because they're the same scribing error on both sides, on both pieces. So these were not mirror images. They're actually the same piece. That's probably why the mold failed in the same spot, as far as like that little hole that went through the front of it. The bubbles are a different story. But as far as the scribing errors, I can see this. There's some scratches where he scribed a line and then scribed a different line. He didn't repair the old one, so there's still a groove there. Just open up my guides here. I'm starting to like your medicine ball thing because I'm having a pain in the ass time getting the stupid bag open again. Alright, start over. Dump them all down. Okay. So for this, it might be like a 2 millimeter. Let me see. No, 3. Looking for a 3 millimeter straight. Once I find it. There it is. Yep, perfect. Let me try 2.5. So these are done in 0.5 increments. Yeah, it looks like 2.5 is going to be the one. So once I can see the printing points here. 7:12. Time check 7:12. About 15 more minutes, roughly. Enough time to finish these scribes. As with the other lines I did, I'll do these deep enough that, not too deep, but deep enough that when I do sand the piece to make those final hairs to the blemishes, my scribes will still be there. Yeah, I feel you, George. Now, this is some soft ass resin. And it's definitely not the easiest stuff to scribe. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised by it. I don't know what's worse. Resin that's really soft or resin that's really hard. I would say resin that's soft is worse. Just about done with this piece. And I'll do the other side. I've also got to sand this down enough to fix the scribing errors from the mold that Moscato made. All right, that one's good. Let's see, I did the sides of these, I believe, already. I'll do them one more time. Just sure my lines are good and visible. And we'll do the straights. 2.5 millimeter. A little tricky, especially with how soft this is. Pretty good. Now we'll hit this side. It takes about 3 or 4 passes just to get enough of a groove that I can take the guide off and then just finish cleaning up the line by hand. There's enough of a groove there if you take your time, that it's not going to jump on you. Not to say it won't ever happen, but As long as you get enough of a line there established, you should be able to go back in. Okay. Now I'm going to have to do some sanding here. There's a lot of scratches just in this piece alone that aren't even mine. They're just scratches that were molded into the piece. Because whatever cleanup work he was doing before molding it, it didn't fully clean them up. You can still see that scribing error. It's got a really deep scribing error here, so I'm going to have to go quite a bit here until I can get that to disappear. Or just fill it with some CA glue and call it a day, which I might have to do after all too. There's too much there to take out. Yeah, you can still see it. Wow. It's unfortunate. This side's not too bad. It's the other side that's really bad. Okay. That's pretty good. I am going to have to fill that one side. What time is it? 7:19. This is the same side with that really bad one. I'm just going to go ahead and fill those now because sanding it obviously isn't going to do the trick. It's just too deep. Take much to fill that, so I'm only going to use a tiny bit. On the other side, I'm just bringing it up right to the edge of my line because there's just a tiny bit, tiny blemish there. But same on the other side. Alright, we got a second. I'll hit it with some Instacure. Try sanding one last time. And my cap. Alright. Instacure. That. Stuff works pretty quick. Alright. That's good with my scrubbing guys again. Oh my god. Flying everywhere. sunset tonight. It was raining this morning, so I wasn't sure it'd be that nice, but it looks nice now. Let's see, I think I want to use my coarse grit. This is better. I'm still going to fill all those little micro bubbles on that one too. I haven't done that either. Yeah, that looks nice now. Now that I filled that scratch up, scribing error, so to speak. Looks good. Let's see if I can get the same result on this side. Oh yeah. Noticeable improvement. That looks good. A bit more. Cool. All right, we'll sand this one down. Check it, and then I'll fill those micro bubbles that are still remaining on this one. One more. That looks perfect. And just a little bit of sand glue, that's all it needed. Looks good. All right. One more thing to do on this guy, and that is to fill these little micro bubbles. Take another little drop of glue. Just kind of running along this edge. And they're really small. So it almost looks like what termites would look like in wood. I think I almost prefer one big air bubble to these little tiny ones because they just pop up everywhere. All right. Got to sit for half a second and we'll hit it with some Insta-Set. We should be able to sand that right away. Okay. Everybody must be staying in tonight. Don't have a ton of people on. Of course, I didn't go around and I used to go around and tell everybody, hey, I'm going live in 30 minutes or something like that. I forgot to do that tonight, so maybe that's why. Okay, sanding time. If we're good with this, we'll call it a night. Okay. So I'm going to have to go back over those. Didn't quite fill as much as I needed to. So, hit this with one more little dot of glue. All right. Okay, folks, looks like we're coming to the end of tonight's show. Thank you all for everyone that joined in and hung out with me. I'm going to turn off my fan now. I'll get a little bit quieter in here. In the meantime, we're going to continue working on this last remaining few pieces. I got all the missiles I still got to cut out. I got a few fixes to do. Let me get rid of that. I didn't realize that's still on the screen. Hang on a second. There we go. Still got some mold lines, a little bit of blemish here on the top of each of the, or the front of the thigh area. The bottom part of the leg is, there's a pretty good, pretty much done on both pieces. Not a whole lot left to do there. So it's getting there. We're about ready to hit it with the first wave of primer. So maybe by next week, that's where we'll be. I still got to work out these doors because I was talking about in the beginning of the broadcast, they don't quite fit like they should on the front here. They're kind of misaligned. So when you put these little tabs in, they kind of push against each other and you can't get them to sit straight because they're, so I may have to kind of sand these and shave off a little bit of material there to get those to fully fit properly. But other than that, yeah, it's looking pretty good. I like the size of it. It's a massive kit. I did assemble everything and took a picture of it. I'm going to check and see. I'm not sure if I posted that yet. That shows the actual height of this whole thing fully standing, but it's big. It's going to be about 12 to 14 inches total height. Let's see here. Anybody else left in the chat? No, that's about it. So with that, my friends, thanks again for coming in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be good humans. We'll see you next time. Talk to you soon. Gunnar William. I'm out.